I am pleased and honored to introduce our commencement speaker, Victoria Reggie Kennedy. She is a true friend to social work, whom I admire tremendously, and whom I've been fortunate to get to know personally over the last few years. As an attorney, activist, and wife of the late Massachusetts Senator Edward Kennedy, Vicki Kennedy has devoted herself to many important civic causes. Here are a few. A powerful advocate for the enactment of health care reform, Vicki Kennedy stood alongside President Barack Obama when he signed landmark health care legislation into law in March 2010. Today, she continues to advocate for health care reform, explaining its benefits to constituency groups around the country. Vicki Kennedy is the co-founder and trustee of the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the United States Senate, which will sit adjacent to the JFK Library at the University of Massachusetts in Boston. This institute will educate visitors about the role of the United States Senate and work to invigorate public discourse, encourage participatory democracy, and inspire the next generation of citizens and leaders. Ms. Vicki Kennedy also serves on the advisory board of the Edward M. Kennedy Oral History Project, located at the University of Virginia. The project examines the senator's life and career. A passionate advocate for issues that affect the lives of women, children, and families, Vicki Kennedy co-founded Common Sense About Kids and Guns, an organization that works to reduce gun deaths and injuries to children. Playing an active role in Senator Kennedy's re-election campaigns, Vicki Kennedy created the Massachusetts Women's Council, which served as a model for similar campaigns. In 2008, she served as co-chair of Catholics for the Obama-Biden campaign and remains active in her support of candidates in Massachusetts and around the country. Appointed by President Obama, she is also a member of the Board of Trustees of the JFK Center for the Performing Arts. Vicki Kennedy is also on the Board of Overseers at Boston's Museum of Fine Arts and serves on the boards of Catholic Democrats of Massachusetts and the National Leadership Roundtable on Church Management. Vicki Kennedy received her bachelor's degree from Newcomb College and her Juris Doctor degree from Tulane University Law School. I am delighted to announce that she will receive an honorary degree from Boston University at the University Commencement Ceremony this coming Sunday at Nickerson Field. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Victoria Reggie Kennedy as a commencement speaker for Boston University.
Thank you, Carla. Dean Steckity, thank you so much for the honor of addressing this gathering today. And Ralph and Morrigan, I know I speak for everyone here in thanking you for those thoughtful remarks. And to all of you who won these wonderful awards, you inspire us, and I congratulate you. But Carla, in a special way, thank you not only for that gracious introduction, but also for your friendship and for the activism that makes you and your husband, Vin Ryan, who I'm so happy to see here today, the exemplars of the ideals that I am going to speak about today. Graduates, on a day like this, there's only one word you need to hear or want to hear from your commencement speaker: congratulations. Of course, it's equally true that on a day like today, you never hear only one word from your commencement speaker. A reporter from your school newspaper asked me what I remembered most about the speeches from my own commencements, and I knew I had to answer him, but I really hated to, because the truth is, I remember absolutely nothing. Zero. Well, that's not exactly true. I do remember that it was long. Really, really, really long. And so I'm looking forward to returning the favor today. Not really. Well, maybe. When I thought about what I wanted to say this afternoon, I kept coming back to the same thing because it's my passion. I wanted to encourage you to be involved citizens and to make a difference. But talking to a class of social workers about serving others is like talking to a class of seminarians about believing in God. You already walk that walk. You decided to make a difference in this world when you decided to be a social worker. Service is already written into your heart. It's woven into the fabric of your being. I saw firsthand the power of social workers to do good and heal wounds and make better the life of this world in the difficult days in the aftermath of 9/11. So many Massachusetts families suffered the devastating sudden loss of loved ones on that terrible day. My husband, as their senator, and as someone who understood the shock of unexpected, unspeakable loss, talked to the families often and met with them frequently to offer personal comfort and to help harness the power of our government to help as well. In October 2001, at one of those meetings where Teddy had brought representatives of government agencies that could offer benefits and be of assistance to those families, a young widow raised her hand. And she stood up and she said, "Senator, it's nice that all of that help is out there and that you're letting us know about it. Really, I appreciate it, and that's really great." But she said, "I can barely get out of bed in the morning. How do you expect me to fill out forms? How do you expect me to dial the phone? What do you want me to do when there's that busy signal and they put me on hold?" And there was silence in that room. But Teddy could see the same story written on the face of every single family member in that room. He left that meeting with a mission. His staff told me that when he got in the car, he bellowed in a way that only Teddy could bellow. He said, "We need social workers now." And then he went to work. He went to work with the state of Massachusetts to put together an advocacy system comprised of volunteer social workers who were paired with 9/11 families. And it was a huge success. Those caring social workers were a lifeline for families like the families of that young widow. They helped them not only navigate the services available to them, but also with the issues of grief. And if that's not the definition of nobility, I don't know what is. Imagine for a moment infinity, because that's the difference each of those social workers made in the lives of each individual they touched. It was infinite. Now imagine infinity magnified countless times more, and you'll understand why today I'm going to call on you not just to serve and make a difference, but to engage in the political life of our nation. Your capacity to change the world is enormous. By engaging in politics, you can amplify that capacity exponentially. Politics provides opportunities to change lives with the same power and depth, but on a far larger scale. Politics, that is, conceived of as the noble calling I believe it can be. That's why I want you to conceive of service in the broadest possible sense, as an ideal that begins in the face-to-face encounters that make the calling of social work so noble, but one that reaches down in the most real terms to people and does so much to shape the lives of those you serve. But let me be clear. By urging you to engage in politics, I don't mean you should run for political office, although I think that would be wonderful. I just ask you to be involved in the political life of our nation. You have the power to restore civility to our national dialogue by rising above the coarseness that has permeated too much of it. And restore it we must, because we're Americans and we're better than resorting to name-calling and shout-fests. Isn't that a beautiful sound? Isn't it? I love it. That's what politics is all about. It's about a future for that young child, a bright and shining future for that young child. That's what I'm calling you to do. Because it pertains not merely to the distribution of resources, although that alone would be enough to get our attention. It pertains to the character of our nation. Politics shapes the social environment in which people to whom you have devoted your careers flourish or fail. You understand that better than anyone. Politics was the chosen profession of the man who brought together those social workers and the 9/11 families. The man who in his own life believed in service and hard work and perseverance, even in the face of tragedy and setbacks. And the nobility of politics, as I'm describing it to you, is politics as he saw it, the calling as he heard it. And not far from here, next door to the John F. Kennedy Library, on the campus of UMass Boston, it's the call the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the United States Senate will sound. Teddy didn't want a memorial to himself or his achievements. He wanted to create a place that would spark an interest and nurture the belief that public service can be a noble endeavor, that it can lift and change the world and our nation. And at the Institute, we will do that in a vibrant and accessible way as we provide each visitor with an insight into the working of our government through unique experiential learning programs that are not available anywhere else. My husband's dream that was by immersing themselves in our history, by reliving the great debates of the past, people would be reminded of the progress that was made when men and women of goodwill and both parties came together to address the great challenges facing us as a nation. At the Institute, we hope that by illuminating key moments of leadership and collaboration in the past, people like you will be inspired to get involved, to lead, to collaborate, and help find solutions to the great problems of the present and the future. My husband said, "We are Americans. This is what we do. We reach the moon. We scale the heights. I know it. I've seen it. I've lived it. And we can do it again. And yes, with you, I truly believe we can do it again. Our democracy is not static. It's constantly being refreshed and renewed by the participation of active citizens. The genius and the greatness of the American system is that it encourages us to make right what is wrong, to bring this country closer to our finest founding ideals. Our history is the story of our journey to make America, America. Not far from this place, politics in the United States began with a few men on a ship signing their name to a document that became known as the Mayflower Compact. It was a single paragraph expressing a simple idea. We covenant and combine ourselves into a civil body politic, they wrote. And to what end? For what purpose? For, let me quote, the general good of the colony. The general good, not the protection of the private sphere, or the making of war, or the aggregation of individual desires. The general good, a sense that we are all in this, in some common endeavor together. We, they describe themselves, we whose names are underwritten, and we today, no less than back then, are our government. It's not an alien body, a faceless they. It is all of us, no better, no worse, no nobler, no baser, no more hopeful, and no more cynical than we are. That was the founding concept of politics in America, politics as a common calling and a noble cause. I'm asking you to renew that concept, to establish a new Mayflower Compact, if you will, one that reaffirms our basic commitment to one another, one that reestablishes a covenant conceiving of a society as a moral whole, one that restores politics to the place it occupied on a boat floating in uncertain waters off Cape Cod, not so far from where we are today. It seems especially fitting that they made that promise at sea, for the sea and the sport of sailing teach so much about life and public service. My husband said on many occasions that sailing was for him a metaphor for life. Sometimes there were fair seas and the wind was at your back. Sometimes there were storms and the tide and wind were against you. But with patience and perseverance and an understanding of what was out there and what was to come, you could still win the race and reach your goal. The skills he learned as a sailor, I've always believed, were responsible in many ways for his success in politics and in life. He taught those same lessons to me when he taught me to sail, and those lessons can make a difference in all our lives. I'd like to share 3 of them with you. Lesson 1, set your compass true. This is the most important thing to know at the outset. Where are you headed? You need a sense of direction, a purpose to pursue. That makes a difference between sailing toward a destination and floating adrift. There are different ways to get to that destination, and there are shifting winds and tides that will require you to adjust your tactics along the way. But if you know where you're going and stay focused on it, you'll get there. No issue better illustrates the importance of direction than Teddy's 40-year fight for universal health care. Never once during that long span did his commitment or his hope wane. Never once. A sense of direction on that issue and so many others is what enabled him so artfully to practice and hone that skill so central to politics and so often underappreciated, the art of compromise. Because his sense of direction was so clear, his values rooted so deep, he was able to know he could go so far and no further. He was also able to see he could make this much progress and go no more. This much progress will head him toward his goal. To set your compass true is to choose goals whose fulfillment you may never see, but whose pursuit will nonetheless animate your life. That brings me to lesson number 2. Have faith in the following breeze. Politics is a marathon, not a sprint, and the race is too important for you to be felled by a single failure. The sailor knows the sea may fall flat today, but eventually the wind will pick up and the breeze will come. Recently, I was at a small gathering with Gordon Brown, the former Prime Minister of Britain, at which he identified the core character of Americans, our optimism. He talked about the image around the world of our can-do spirit and a belief that every tomorrow will be better than today. He urged us not to lose that youthful optimism. Youthful because he reminded us America is such a young and promising nation. He said the world counted on that optimism from us. It needed that optimism from us. The world needs Americans to be Americans, he said. I say America needs Americans to be Americans. Americans in the spiritual sense, people whose faith in the following wind abounds. There's one final lesson of the sea I want to urge upon you. Find safe harbor and leave it. Mark Twain said it well. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. So throw off the bow lines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. And doing those things means having a home and knowing it, a place to be safe, a place for returning, but also the courage to leave it. That seems like a fitting note on which to conclude this speech, because just like where I began, it's a lesson you need not hear from me. Social workers sail on society's choppy waters. You go to the places others avoid, engage the problems others dismiss, roll up your sleeves where others throw up their hands. Today, I urge you to extend that ethic beyond the crucial work you have been trained to undertake and into the political realm. I urge you to see possibilities where others see problems, to pursue the goals cynics say cannot be accomplished, to begin the challenges it will take a life's work and perhaps beyond to complete. In all this, I urge you to see politics as the noble undertaking that Teddy saw, as the means to ends larger than yourselves, as a gateway to a good that is not merely personal, but general. And may you be guided in all this by the lessons of the sea. As you sail from this campus, may the lessons you have learned here serve as your North Star. May you find joy in changing the lives you touch and countless more meaning in changing countless more lives politics can enable you to reach. May your voyage from this place include peaceful periods and intense moments, quiet swells and frenzied regattas, and may you find the courage to leave safe harbor in the knowledge that it is always, home is always there for your return. Thank you, and congratulations.